Is the Target boycott over? A beloved fashion brand is pausing production and America's Next Top Model has been exposed. Welcome to the Kickback Briefing. Welcome to the Kickback with Keri podcast. I'm your host, Keri Henderson, and this is the Kickback Briefing, where we break down the latest wins, challenges, and stories shaping business and culture and some of the biggest lessons we can learn from them. This week, we are talking about Target, the status of the boycott, and the things Target is doing to try to win you back in stores. We are talking about Hanifa and the decision to pause production, and America's Next Top Model and that documentary. If you watch it on Netflix, you know it was a lot. So let's get into these stories. So are you going to start shopping at Target again or no? Because, child, it was a lot going on. So on March 12th, Jamal Bryant held a press conference to announce that the Target fast that he led with his church for his churchgoers and the church community at large had come to an end. And given Jamal Bryant's platform and his reach, he somehow became the face of the movement to boycott Target. He has been very vocal in the past about women leading the charge. As y'all know, once the announcement was made that DEI was getting scrapped by Target, Black women said, yeah, no, thank you, we won't be going back. But because Jamal Bryant is a well-known pastor, he has a large platform online, the media deemed him basically the face of the movement. So when he made an announcement that his fast was ending, the media took that as to mean the boycott was ending. But it is very clear through the comments online, through other activists in Minneapolis, the boycott is not over. Now, part of the Target fast demands included a reimagining of DEI, redress around the inclusion of HBCU partnerships, funding in Black banks, and honoring a commitment of $2 billion that I guess Target made after George Floyd was murdered in Minneapolis. As you guys know or may not know, Target, that's where they are headquartered. Now, according to Jamal Bryant, Target met 3 out of the 4 demands, but he did not elaborate. And I would think if you were leading a fast and you wanted them to meet these demands and you claim that they met them, you would announce what actually happened for them to meet them. He ended up doing another video a couple days ago and he said Target met these commitments, or they met 3 out of 4 demands, but he was leaving it to Target to really explain and elaborate how they met those demands. Now, according to USA Today, Target has not made any concessions or reverse course on anything. So the fast may be over, but the boycott is still on. In addition to that, so on one side we have the Target boycott, we have the Target fast. On the other side, according to CNBC, Target is doing some reshuffling and they're changing some things around in their store to try to get customers back in. They're making some changes to their categories because they have seen declining sales in the last couple years. But here's the problem though. Not once has Target publicly addressed the big elephant in the room, which is them getting rid of their DEI initiatives. And what most people don't know is that when all of this started January of 2025, they changed their DEI initiatives to belonging. Not once did they say like, hey, we know it looks like we changed our diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives, but we're changing it to belonging. This is what that means, because we're smart. We can read between the lines. We can know if you all are changing the language because you're trying to not be on the radar of a certain administration. We get it. But by not saying anything, they look like they agree with the erasure of DEI. So now that it's been a full year, many of us have learned that we don't have to shop at Target. Target was a luxury. We have found other places to go. So unfortunately, anything that they do now, from saying they want to move forward, after the fast ended, they're like, we're committed to just moving forward, working with our communities, by changing the categories and wanting to change around the store to bring people back. Everything looks like a ploy just to get us back in store and make more money, obviously, right? Nothing feels genuine because they have never addressed the communities that they hurt by the decisions that they made, not only changing the language on their website and their policy, but not addressing it and reassuring that yes, the language may change, but our intent is still the same. So what are the lessons we can learn from this Target situation? One, once you alienate your audience, it is very, very hard to get them back. Because anything that you do will look like, I'm just trying to get them back to make a sale, and I'm not trying to get them back because I believe that audience is part of our community for a brand, or we really value that community, right? I don't know if there's anything Target can really do that will say to us as a community, yeah, you're genuine in what you're doing, because they have been quiet for so long. I remember when Kalana Barfield Brown She had a collection with Target that launched last year. And when she wrote in her article with the cut, there was some pushback like, oh, I want to support you, but I can't shop at Target. One of the things that she was waiting for Target to do was address the change in DEI and the backlash, because she knew her community was going to feel some type of way of her launching a line with them, considering everything that happened. That never came. And so anything Target does is not going to feel genuine. The second thing is all press is not good press. One of the things we used to hear in the 90s all the time is that all press is good press. And I'm not sure that is true anymore. Now, granted, Target is a huge brand, right? Their loss in sales is not going to be so detrimental that they close. Yes, they're seeing a decline, but Target is still making money. But when you think about smaller brands, I don't know if they can afford to have negative press and actually bounce back and recover from that. That's something that would be very, very hard to recover from. And so when it comes to business, when it comes to brands, we got to really be careful and think about the decisions that we're making, especially now at a time when people are being a lot more conscious about how they're spending their money. Just look at what happened with Disney when they took Jimmy Kimmel off the air. How many people canceled their Hulu subscriptions in like a day, right? People are paying attention to the things that are happening, decisions that are being made. And so, yeah, it could get you in the spotlight. Yeah, people will be talking about you, but that doesn't necessarily mean people are going to rock with you. That doesn't mean they're going to spend their money, their hard-earned money for your brand and your business just because your name is out there. So you have to really be conscious about the decisions that you're making and how that's going to impact not only your customers, but your bottom line. So our next story is about Hanifa pausing production. And this one makes so many of us sad because Hanifa is a beautiful brand. If you're not familiar, Hanifa is a Black woman-owned fashion brand that started around 15 years ago. And the owner, Hanifa, recently announced that she is pausing production because she doesn't really feel inspired right now. So according to BET, this announcement followed weeks of customer frustration over delayed Hanifa Friday orders and intense social media backlash that was directed at the brand and the founder, who is postpartum. So if you guys aren't familiar, Hanifa Friday is like the annual Black Friday sale where customers can pre-order sale items. And the biggest complaint that was shared online was frustrations with shipping. So after tons of complaints on social media, the brand receiving tons of emails, contact with their customer service team, the owner, Hanifa, hopped online, shared on social media that the brand was dealing with a lot of issues regarding customs and manufacturing delays. So after Hanifa shared the update on the tariffs and the manufacturing delays, one of the common themes I kept seeing across social media was not the issue with the delay, but the lack of communication. And I think this is one thing a lot of small businesses struggle with. A lot of times it's only one person running everything or a very, very small team. So one of the biggest lessons you can learn as a business owner, even if you're in a role of leadership, is to communicate. Over communicate. Most people you'll find are understanding if you communicate. Tell them what's going on, tell them the status of things. And when it comes to businesses and if you're shipping product, if you say something's going to be shipped, let's say December 30th, but the way things are going right now, December 30th is not going to be that date. Don't wait till after December 30th to say, hey, your items are going to be delayed. Now, of course, I'm not saying, send an email and write a dissertation about all the things that are happening, but just say, hey, I know we were scheduled to send out your items December 30th, but based on the way things are going right now, we're pushing that shipping date out to January 15th due to some manufacturing delays, due to items being held at customs, etc. You want to make sure you're keeping your customers in the loop because you don't want anyone to ever feel like they got taken advantage of because they're spending their hard-earned money to shop your brand. If you know there are going to be delays and the delays are happening longer than expected, offer a product discount. Like, hey, we apologize for the inconvenience. Here's 15% off your next order so that you can keep those customers and incentivize them to want to shop with you again. I think if Hanifa decides to do pre-orders in the future, because a lot of times smaller brands, what they'll do because they don't have the capital is that they'll do pre-orders. And then once you get those orders in, then you can start manufacturing, producing the product because you need that cash flow to actually make the product. Extend the shipping time. Just extend the shipping time. Because of the environment we're in right now, between the tariffs, the customs, manufacturing delays, I don't know where products are manufactured, but if you think it's going to take a month, if that's what your manufacturer said, add 2 extra weeks. Add 4 extra weeks. Make it very clear on your website. This is a pre-order item. This is going to take 4 to 8 weeks to ship. We will communicate every step of the way. Make it very clear that this is pre-order. You want to make sure you set the expectation up front so you don't have people feel like they're being taken advantage of, and you're not getting bombarded with emails and dragging on social media about where's my order. And on the flip side, as a customer, we need to give each other grace. After Hanifa announced that she was pausing production, so many Black women founders chimed in online because they have felt that same pressure, or some of them have felt that same wrath from people, or the social media dragging. And it's like, why are Black women held to a higher standard than anybody else? It doesn't make any sense. When you are shopping these smaller brands, you have to remember you are shopping a small business. They do not have the capital or the infrastructure as a large business like an Amazon. You know, we always hear, I won't say always, but people will say like, that's why I don't shop a Black owned business. That's why I don't shop a Black owned business after they make one mistake. But we got no problem continuously shopping Amazon, continuously shopping Walmart. Some of y'all are still shopping at Target, okay? Without issue. Even if an item is delayed, an item may be torn or broken, what do? We go online, we return it to store, we get a refund, we order it again, or we look somewhere else. So why can't we have that same posture for small businesses? Because you also have to think about this too. Somebody made a point online. When you show up online and you're dragging these businesses, these may be businesses that are trying to get capital, that are trying to raise funding. Them being dragged through social media is not helping their case at all. And I know a lot of the dragging online is going to be for rage bait purposes, because people monetize off of rage. They monetize off the negativity that is trending online. I get it. But if you have a problem with the business, send them an email, send them a DM. And if it doesn't work out for you, maybe you shop them multiple times, and you know what, every time I shop, it's always an issue. Just don't shop there anymore. But the public dragging is not necessarily. We have to do better and take care of each other, because this is not helping us as a community at all. Our final story is America's Next Top Model. Now, I know you're probably thinking like, well, what does America's Next Top Model have to do with the other things we've talked about in this episode and previous episodes? Because most of them are around business. But there's a lesson we can learn from America's Next Top Model after watching the documentary. If you're a millennial, you know America's Next Top Model was a hit when it came out in 2003. You were either in high school or college. I remember we watched that show religiously. But one thing that became clear watching the documentary from an older lens is that America's Next Top Model lost the plot, and they lost the plot very quickly. When Tyra Banks created the show, she said she wanted to basically push back against the fashion norms, right? She wanted to show beauty in a different way than the industry norm or the industry standard. But when you watch the documentary, the show kind of reinforced a lot of the fashion standards she was supposed to be pushing back against, right? You have one season where basically they threatened her girl to send her home if she didn't close her Gap. She loved her Gap. Danny loved her Gap. They were like, yeah, nah, if you want to stay here, you got to close it. Only to turn around seasons later and to widen the gap of other contestants. If girls were not a size 2, they were called fat. They put other girls in situations where they were working with designers that didn't have clothes that fit them. And it almost felt like a humiliation ritual. Like, we're just on here to embarrass them. Tyra also wanted to prove that she was smart and that she could do more than just be on the face of a cover of a magazine. She said something in the documentary along the lines like, I wanted to prove to them like, yeah, you guys got covers, but I got a TV show. And when you go into a show with that type of mentality, your idea of like pushing against fashion norms and helping these girls is probably gonna go out the window, because America's Next Top Model became a machine and everybody was on for the ride. Why mess up a good thing, right? Even if it's to the detriment of these girls who really thought they were pursuing something that would change their life. Because I watched that documentary, and you know, I think the president or whoever was leading the network at the time, she had no regrets about anything that happened. The executive producer, one of the executive producers, he did admit some of the challenges were a little outrageous, and he admitted like some of them they shouldn't have done. But the general census from everyone involved was like, that's what we did during that time. They have no regrets about it. It is what it is. But one of the lessons I thought about is maybe more of a question, is that when you're building, you have to ask yourself if you're willing to compromise for virality, right? Because America's Next Top Model, the original goal was to push against the industry norms, work with these agencies, get these girls booked, and they could start their modeling careers. Now, some people have had amazing careers after being on that show, but there were a lot of people who won that show that were just like, okay, you won, that's it. They didn't get any type of mentorship. They weren't cast and booked for jobs because there was a stigma around being on the show. There was one, I think, one winner who didn't even get her full prize, right? It's kind of like, hey, we announced you're the winner, and they just dropped her off somewhere and just kept it moving. And I would think someone like Tyra Banks, who had been in the industry and knew how hard it was to be in that industry, they would have focused on like, okay, once you win this prize, once you get this award, here's how we can help to make sure that you really hit the ground running. And so watching this documentary, you realize every season of that show got more and more ridiculous. But the question is, at the end of the day, was it worth it? Secondly, you want to remember your why. Why are you doing what you're doing? What impact do you want to make? What do you want your legacy to be? And once you understand those things, make sure you follow through. America's Next Top Model, viral show, hit show. But when you look back on it now, it's kind of tainted, right? When you look at it through a new lens and you look at some of the experiences that the girls had on the show, some of them are still dealing with things now that the show triggered, like some people with eating disorders and so many different things. I think Tyra's intent was good, but when you're talking about that show 23 years later, the legacy isn't necessarily a positive one. So those are some things I want you guys to think about. Whatever it is, whatever passion project you're working on, whatever business that you're building, remember your why and ask yourself if you're willing to compromise. And if you are willing to compromise, at what is it going to cost you? Because it may look like a good deal on the front end, but what is it going to cost you and what might you lose on the back end? So that wraps up this week's Kickback Briefing. Right now, we're looking to do these about once a month, unless, there's like some major headlines that happen, then they'll be more often. But let me know what you guys think of these topics. If there are any topics that come up that you think we need to talk about, drop those, send me a message, leave a comment on YouTube, send me a DM on social, all the things. I appreciate you guys for tuning in, and I will catch you in another episode. If you enjoyed this episode, drop a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe to the Kickback with Keri newsletter.